Hi, everyone. Welcome to the June edition of the Splunk Southern California user group. Today, we'll just jump right into it. We have Jon Nussbaum with Splunk, who's going to be giving us a presentation on dashboarding tips and tricks. So let's pass that over to Jon.
Awesome. All right, just give me a moment here. Let me get my screen shared. All right, just going here. So welcome everybody. You guys are having a great week, and hope you guys are looking forward to the 4th of July here coming up. So yeah, today's session is going to be dashboarding tricks and tips. And why we chose this topic was sort of a follow-up from some of the questions that we've been seeing throughout the different sessions, and yeah, just to get you guys better acquainted to some of the more advanced features and functions of Splunk dashboarding to be able to take your guys' dashboards to the next level. So within the session, we'll be covering a few different themes. We'll start off with dashboard input, so how we can give users the ability to drive input into dashboards and manipulate different drop downs and so forth that ultimately touch the underlying data so that they can get the right results displayed as they'd like to see. We'll touch on tokens. So from the different input selections, we'll be passing tokens down to some of the underlying panels that will drive different search results. And then we'll do things like showing and hiding content based on different field selections, so ways that we can drive different dynamic dashboard content, if you will. And then we'll roll into base searches, which is good practice if you have multiple different panels that are all being derived from the same search. That way you're not having Splunk execute multiple different searches to drive the different panels. Rather, you have one base search and you have the different panels doing post-processing commands on that data stream. So therefore, you'll have better performance and it'll cut down on the system time used to process the data to display it back in different ways. So you get a lot more out of your environment by doing base searches, better practice, and yeah, you'll have better performance as well. We will then pivot over into the new dashboard framework. This is something that was announced at our user conference late last year. We have some resources that we'll share with you, as well as going through some dashboard examples in this new framework. So looking forward to that. And then some other resources that we have. Dashboard Examples is an app that's available on Splunk Base. It's a great collection of different dashboard elements to show how you can decorate and really dress up your dashboards to meet any kind of use case and visualization that you may want to display for all sorts of different use cases and user bases. So we'll touch on that. And then I'll be using some data that I've uploaded to a publicly facing Google Drive, similar to how I did it a few months ago. So the link is here, but given this is WebEx and you can't conveniently copy and paste this, I will copy this link here and paste it in the WebEx chat so that you guys can go ahead and access that data. And if you have a Splunk instance handy, whether it's on your local machine or running in a dev environment, you can run through the paces really quickly to upload this data and get going. So I've pasted the link there in the WebEx chat, so hopefully everybody can see that and get to it. I'll just click on it to make sure. And though I'm logged in, I'm pretty sure that this is open to the world here. Let's get shareable link. Yeah, anyone with this link on the internet can view it. So yeah, we'll give everybody a couple minutes to download the two files there. One of them is the traditional Splunk tutorial data.zip. This is from the Buttercup's game web server ecosystem. So it's got some web server data. And then the CSV here is some of the recent COVID-19 data. It was published yesterday, or a couple days ago. So we'll go ahead and use that as an example. So it is 4:11 right now. I'll give everybody about a minute or so to download it, and then we'll launch in. So I'll be back here in about a minute. So I'll just go ahead and download it too, just to get the real user experience here. So I've downloaded both files. So I would assume that for those that are following along, click the link. Download should be done for you as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So we'll start with the CSV here. So I'll go ahead and launch into one of my Splunk environments here. Let's see here. And we'll just go ahead and import this data. So in one of your Splunk environments, hopefully it's local on your laptop. I'm thinking there might be some production environments that be nuanced where the data upload method that I'm about to do might be a little nuanced, but in any case, just follow along. So let's go to data inputs here. Actually, the best way, just go to add data. So settings, add data, and then we'll go ahead and click on upload. And I'll select a file here. So I will get my CSV file here. Actually going to get the one without the one. So it does a quick upload, click next. It's going to show us the contents of the data. This happens to be a CSV file, so we get our schema up top with all the different values. It's CSV. I believe it pulls time from our last update. So if you look at this column here, last update, 2020-6/29, we're getting that parsed out as time. So that is perfect. So nothing we need to do here. We can just go ahead and click next. And I'll just go ahead and keep this default post field value what it is. I'll create a new index. We'll just call this SoCal. Go ahead and save that and then review. It's telling us that we're going to be uploading this file to the index SoCal, and we'll submit. And we'll go ahead and start searching here. Okay, so we have our data. We have the different fields that are associated with this data set over off to the left here, and we can see some testing data, so active cases, confirmed, hospitalization rates, latitude, longitudes, and province states. So what we'll start to do is build out a dashboard where we can have some interactive input built into the dashboard so that we can have users drive some of these different fields and values as opposed to writing SPL to pull back their the results they're looking for. So an example here with SPL would be if we wanted to know what the active cases are for California, we would have to do a quick filter here. We can say province state equal California. So we get back just California, and then we can say table active. So active cases, maybe we want to put our state in there as well. So California active cases. For new users that are just starting out with Splunk, a lot of the times this search bar can be a little intimidating, and it's not super intuitive as to how you work with SPL when you're first starting. So what we can do, being great Splunk admins, power users, and so forth, is create the dashboard for them so they could do more of a point and click, and that's what we'll do here. So with this data set, I'll just go ahead and bring back all these results here, and we can save this just as a placeholder, and then we'll use this data set to start driving our dashboard. So we'll go ahead and create a dashboard panel, and it'll be a new dashboard. We'll call it A SoCal UG1, user group 1. A will make it top of the list, easy to find. We'll share it in the app. It's typically best practice if you're within app space and have role-based access controls that sort of align users into groups and then into different apps. So good to share your dashboard if you want others to see it. If you're trying to work and tinker on something and you want to keep it private, that's what'll be selected by default. But yeah, if you're looking to share it with more than just yourself, go ahead and share it in an app. And for this panel title, we'll just call this placeholder. Go ahead and save it, and we'll view the dashboard. And so we've got a panel with just a bunch of information. But what we'll start to do now is build out the user-driven input within this dashboard. So what we'll do is go ahead and click on the Edit button, and this brings up our editing. And what we'll start with is adding input and use the drop-down input. So after we clicked on drop-down, a little drop-down widget appears here. And what we'll start to do now is edit this drop-down. And what I want to do before jumping into editing this is just click on this edit search here in this panel and grab our base search that returns this data, because we'll use this data set to drive this drop down. So I'll just have that handy on the clipboard, and now I'll click on this little pencil here, and we'll start editing this drop down. So the label, we can name it whatever we'd like. We could say select state. So this will be a drop down where users will select the state and get some data returned. So we could name this again whatever we like. Searching on change means that if somebody's on the dashboard and they start to pivot around and select different values within the drop down, it'll execute searches upon the change. So that's helpful. And then token, just want to make sure that we're assigning a unique token to this specific dropdown that won't collide with anything else on our dashboard. So for this scenario, I'll call it state. And then the token prefix, is going to be, let's see here, province state, I believe. Equals, and then open quotes, and then close quotes. And what this means is we are, as part of our token, we're going to stamp this before the value. And so, the value is here. So whatever somebody clicks on is going to be right here. So if we have things that have spaces or special characters or so forth, it's good to have the field equal open quote so that we can really capture exactly what's being clicked as the token, so that we don't mistakenly cut it off or misinterpret it. So getting rid of that so that we don't have that in the way, we will now scroll down to the search string. So this is where the clipboard will come in handy. I'll go ahead and paste this in here. So this is going to be our base data set. And what we can do is you just say stat, throw that in there, and then do a pipe stats count by province underscore state. I might have, hopefully I got this field right. If not, we can go find the right value. But so what this does is, if we have a data set with multiple entries that align to the same field, that are the same value, stats as a sort of a truncation type command will allow us to roll all the different values into one line, but give us a count at the end. So therefore, we don't have a bunch of duplicate data. So we're not showing users a bunch of duplicate selections. And then what we can do is say fields minus count, just to get rid of count field, because we don't care about all the different counts. We just want this field name here. And so what we can do is copy this, and we'll use this for the label and value. And we'll go ahead and apply it. And I think I got the field name wrong. So we'll go ahead and just troubleshoot this really quick. So jumping in here, we'll run the search. So 0 events found. I'm just going to copy this out, cut it away. And let's start to see where we went wrong. So, little light bulb went off in the head. This data is a few days old. And this is over the last 24 hours. So that's one problem. We'll go ahead and just hit last 7 days. And let's go ahead and throw that right back. We may have found the root cause of that. So go ahead and execute that again. We see all of our states. We don't see any other fields that might get in the way. So this looks to be right. So I will pivot back over here. We'll change this last 24 hours to last 7 days. And we'll go ahead and hit apply. And now our selection, if we drop it down, has all of the values for province state. So now the desired user experience would be to be able to select one of these and then have some underlying panels be driven from the selection. So I'll go ahead and do that here in a sec. But what I'll do right now is share this with you guys. I'll paste this in the WebEx chat so you have it. And that'll be over the last 7 days. Or whatever date, data, whatever time frame your data is showing. I'd imagine if you onboarded it with the source type of CSV through the add data, you should have the correct timestamps. But for some reason, it's something different, then just take that into account and cast your time net over that data set. Okay, so now that we have this awesome selector, how do we drive these underlying panels? So what we can do is open up this search here. So magnifying glass, and what we'll do is add in the token. We had named it state. So in Splunk, we wrap our tokens with dollars. So dollar, state, dollar, and that should interpret to province, state, and camel case equals open quote, the value of whatever we're going to select here, close quote. And then that should return back just that state's data. And if we want to see all the different elements or fields and values, we could say table star. Type table star, and that's going to give us all the fields and values back. So we'll go ahead and hit apply. Now this panel that had a bunch of data is now saying search is waiting for input. So let's go ahead and save this. Always save frequently, so you guys don't accidentally discard something. And so probably most everybody's interested in California. So we'll go ahead and click on California and just reload this here. Do this again. So California. So we get back our California data here. Let's see here. For some reason, let's see. And I'm going to drop down this little pencil here under Edit and click on Table and save. I'm not sure what happened to my data, but here's all the different fields and values. Let's see. Page. Let's do this. I'm going to go back into edit the search and I'm going to open this up in a new tab. Rather run the search. Get rid of that here. So this is what I'd be expecting to see. It's a nice table with all these different elements here. So let's go back here and we'll do table underscore time, state underscore province, or province underscore state, and active cases. And we'll go ahead and apply. And let me reload this here. Very strange. Okay, so the this worked a few minutes before I jumped on this call, but it's not cooperating. So let's just do a stats count by time, province, state, active. Oh, this is really strange. May just move on here. This isn't going to work. So we have the data, it's just not showing right. statistics table. Oh, aha. I think I found the reason. Let me try this here. Okay. Yeah, it was under the events visualization. So it was just displaying back the events, not the stats or anything that I was feeding it. So I thought I was going crazy, but there we go. So statistics table, if you're getting some funky looking results there, just go ahead and drop this down, select visualization, click on the statistics table, and go ahead and save. And now um, we've got our dashboard panel that's now driven by a dropdown. So if we go, say, Florida, so this changes our data dynamically within this panel based on this selection here. So pretty cool. A way that, with any data set and any creative ways your user community or audience might want to represent the data, there's many different ways that you can have this user input to drive results here. Okay, so now what I want to do is one last thing, which is pretty important, is time. So if we click on edit our dashboard and drop down the add input and click on time, go ahead and bring this to the front. Yeah, the first selection here is time. And we'll give it a label of time. And we'll just call this time 1. And we will also take the search on change and apply it. And in order to wire this time selection up to the dashboard panel, we will edit our search. And for the time range, we'll say use time picker time 1. Happens to be what we just created there. So under time range, time 1, apply, and we'll save it. And I'll just go ahead and reload this really quick, shake off everything. So last 24 hours, no results found. A similar thing that we had before. The data's a few days old. Let's go ahead and hit 7 days, and there you have it. So give the users the flexibility, select time, select different field values, and drive data. Other things really quickly, we won't touch on all of them, but there's text boxes that can support wildcards with submit buttons. There's multi-selects, so you could have, show me this value, that value, and the other value, and you can have different SPL behind that to support whatever behavior is desired. Yeah, radio checkbox. So yeah, I encourage you guys to play with these different inputs. And they're definitely good tools to know how to operate as you create different dashboards. So we'll go ahead and cancel out of this. And then the other data set that I want to work with is tutorial-data.zip. So we'll go ahead and upload that into our SoCal index, and then we'll go over the exercise of creating a form drill down token and the ability to drive dynamic content based on fields and values that get loaded into these panels, and the ability for users to click into different values and drive other dashboard panels. So more of a continuation of the user experience. So let's go ahead and upload that data. So we'll go to settings, add data. We'll upload. and select file, tutorial data.zip. Next, we'll go ahead and just leave the source type as automatic. Splunk should be smart enough to read the regular expression of the data and know that it's access combined and some other data sources within this file. So automatic, and the default will be SoCal, or the index will change from default to SoCal. And we'll review it. So everything looks good. We'll go ahead and submit. And we'll start searching our data. And so what we can see here is, so our index SoCal, we've got our source here. And if we start cruising through the different source types of data, we've got secure access combined W cookie, vendor sales. So this is our Buttercups game tutorial data. It is automatically source typed correctly, and further validation or verification if we go through some of these different fields like URI, URI path, etc. It looks like we've aligned the source types correctly, and we have all the knowledge objects behind them to give us our field abstractions. So we're looking pretty good there. So now, with this data set, let's go ahead and drill into the access combined W cookie source type. So this is bringing us back just our web access logs. So what I want to do is get this data into our dashboard. So what we can do is come up with a search that users might want to click into to drive other visualizations. So with this web access data, I always like to do things like status codes, report on status codes. So we use the status field, something that'll be our base search, if you will, to drive our drill downs. So if we do a pipe stats count by status, Splunk will return back all the different status codes that it sees within our data set and give us the count of events behind the occurrences of these different status codes within the events. So of our almost 40,000 events, this is how it breaks down from a status field perspective. So awesome. What we can do now is save it as a dashboard panel. And we'll click on existing because we have our SoCal user group dashboard that we've created. And we'll call this web status codes. And we'll go ahead and save it, and then we'll jump into the view dashboard. And we've got our searches waiting for input because we don't have any of these fields selected yet. That's fine, but we have our web status codes dashboard panel here that we just created. So what we want to do now is drive another panel. So what we can do here is go ahead and click on edit, and we'll click on more actions, edit drill downs. And for this drill down editor, what we can say now is manage tokens on this dashboard. And we can say our status field is equal to the click.value2. So clicked field column value captures the specific table cell that value that users click. So it's good to run through these to see what some of these different Splunk default tokens are that we have available to us. So earliest, latest, or times. You may want to capture some of the other fields in a different way, but this click.value2 is what we're looking for. We want to pass whatever value somebody clicks verbatim into another panel. So click.value2, and we'll go ahead and hit apply. Now what you can see here is these are now links. So this drill down is now active. I'll just go ahead and save this. And so if I click on 200, it will set the status token as 200. And so now what I want to do is drive another dashboard panel for when somebody clicks on this. And what I'll do to get there is we'll go to another search window and on edit here, just grab this base search here, go back to my other tab, throw that in. So if I had a status equal to 200, what might I want to see? So cruising through this data, we have different actions. So add to cart, purchase, view, remove, change quantity. Maybe I want to know when somebody purchases something, maybe what they're purchasing. So in order to do that, you can say action equal purchase. So now I've limited all of my data that Splunk is returning me to what is being purchased. And now to answer the what are they purchasing question, I could use something like category ID. So I'm just going to copy that, paste that up here. I'll do something via stats with this. And let's see what else we have. Probably use this product ID field as well. Okay. So then we'll do a type stats count by category ID, product ID. Maybe something fun could be a time chart count by do category ID. So these are the different category IDs that are selling. And if we go pivot over to visualization, drop down to bar chart, we could say use null equal false, give all of the null values. And maybe we want to format this guy to stacked. So we can get a single day representation in aggregate, as well as be able to see the individual blocks of category ID. So great. We'll go ahead and save this as a dashboard panel. So go back to existing, we'll do the SoCal UG1, we'll call this time chart of purchases, save it. And instead of viewing the dashboard, I'll just reload one that I already have open. As long as you're not in edit mode, that change should have stuck. And we should now see our time chart of purchases. So let's see here. What I want to do now is click on edit, and in order to wire this dashboard up to whatever the user clicks in here, we'll have to edit the search and replace status equal 200 with status. So dollar status dollar and apply. And how we got that, again, if we go to edit drill down, this status token is derived from the click token. So we're tokenizing a token. And what will happen is, we have to encapsulate this in dollar signs to make it a referenceable token for another panel that's going to depend on it. So we'll go ahead and back out of that and bring this up again. So status equal dollar status dollar. So now if I go ahead and save this and click on 200, that should pass back 200 to this dashboard panel. And we could click on 400 or something else just to verify that what we've done is correct. It looks like based on the results that are not showing some 503s. Interesting. So we had some unsuccessful purchase attempts. And we could always open and search just to validate our data. And we can see that absolutely our status field did get populated with what we clicked on. So always make sure you guys QA your searches and stuff before you hand them over to anybody. So looks good. And now what we want to do is make this dashboard only appear when somebody searches on it. So there is there's a depends on XML attribute that we can add to this particular panel. And so what I'll do here is I'm going to slightly cheat because I had this going here, my other dashboard panel. And what I'll do is edit just to grab the code so I'm not fumbling around. Essentially here we have show panel. So it depends on show panel. So what I'm going to do is copy this over. So what I'm essentially doing is declaring that this token within, I'm declaring a token called show panel within the within this web status code panel. So setting a token there, and then what I'll do is within this panel add a depends on clause so that we have to we're only going to load it once this panel is interacted with. So probably doesn't make sense until you see it. So we'll go ahead and edit and click on source, and we'll go down to our token here. So what we're going to do is drill down. So we're going to set the token of show panel. That's going to be true. And then for the next panel, just put this depends on parameter here. So panel depends on show panel. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. And if the dashboard gods are on our side, when we click on this 200, our panel should pop up here with our time chart. So there we go. And there's all sorts of different ways to get creative, showing and hiding. If you have different cases where you'd want that to, you have different cases on how you'd want that to work, and you're unsure of how to do that, I would suggest taking a look at answers.splunk.com. Oftentimes, your specific use case might have already been asked for from a help perspective, and there was likely an answer there to help you. So if you guys aren't familiar, it's just answers.splunk.com, and you just need a splunk.com username. But go ahead and get into the community and take a look, start searching for different things. I typically use Google, and then just that'll link to the answers, and yeah, helpful way to find other ways of doing similar types of things. Get a specific answer on. Okay, so we went over the form tokens, how to get something wired up to drive dynamic content, and then of course, and then we touched on how to have different panels pass tokens to hidden panels that are dependent upon another panel. So pretty cool there. And then as a follow-up, if we sped too fast through any of this, I will share the XML of our dashboards, so don't worry there. For the sake of time, I will fast forward through the last few sections. So what I want to do now is pivot over to a dashboard that has a base search running. So this was stolen from one of our colleagues who happens to be in SoCal. She's been at Splunk for, I believe, 8 years or so. Yeah, wrote some excellent blogs on using base searches within dashboards. And so just a quick sort of set the stage. If you have a dashboard like this that has a bunch of very complex searches that may be overburdening the Splunk environment to just fetch the data and then do a bunch of post-processing to the data, each one of these panels, if it's an ad hoc search, will dispatch a unique search to the Splunk environment, requesting data, and then doing some sort of post-processing to the data to where it ultimately displays something of interest. And if you have a dashboard with, say, 20 or 40 plus panels, and I've seen some pretty wild dashboards out there, it's not efficient by any means to have each one of these dashboard panels execute an individual search. Rather, if we can build these different panels off of a single stream of data and just apply a different lens or a different rub, if you will, to the data, then we can be a lot more efficient because we're only asking Splunk for one data set, and then we can do a bunch of stuff to it. So the way this works is, we click on edit here. If we look at the search string time chart count, well, we're not specifying an index equal anything. We're just saying time chart count, or in this case, we're doing a top command. The way this works, we'll just cut right to the chase. If we edit the source, I'll zoom in a bit, and then I'll share all this with you guys in an email afterwards. But we have base searches defined. So before we get into our panels, so let's find where our first panel is, which is right here. So, okay, so this is where we define our search ID as first base search, and we're giving it our search string, and then we're given a second base search with its search string, and then we have a time selector there, and then we start to build out our panels. And notice we have our search base is referring back to our first base search, and then the query is just some post-processing command. So it's the stats, time chart, table, top, rare. I can just rattle off commands all day, but yeah, so any command there, and that'll be essentially appended on to this search, and that'll drive the panel. And for our second base search, same sort of thing, just in these different panels, reference our second base search, and then do other post-processing to that data. So instead of running 4 separate searches. In this case, we can run two different ones and display and slice and dice the data differently, all while aligning to best practice and best performance that will be experienced. So highly encourage base searches where possible. And again, I'll get this out to you guys after. The other thing, let's see, we're running up almost to the top of the hour. So the other thing to consider is we could change some of these to save scheduled reports, which is something interesting and maybe would be a topic for another time. But a report can be scheduled to run on certain time intervals, and essentially what could happen is instead of having these dashboard panels execute a search, we would just be pulling back the results of, say, a more complex or longer time to render query within Splunk to enable or to allow for better user experience. So instead of somebody stepping into the dashboard and waiting, I've seen some people accept a wait time of 2 to 3 minutes, even on some of these dashboard panels, which is just very excruciatingly painful, sitting there waiting for this thing to load. So what we could do is convert it to report and then have it run every so often, write those results to disk, and then these panels would just be reading that TSIDX data from the disk rather than having to render or run a search. So that might be a topic for another time, but something nonetheless to keep in mind. Okay, so yeah, I think we touched on most of what I wanted to cover for dashboards. With a few minutes left, let's jump into the new dashboard framework. So this is a better experience way of creating a dashboard. So it is called, it's in beta, Splunk Enterprise Dashboard beta. If you just type in Splunk, if I can spell Universal Dashboard Framework, this dashboards app is available on Splunk Base to download and install. It used to be run on 8 or 7.3. So I will paste this in the chat so that you guys can download that if you'd like. May not be able to download it and follow along in time, so I'll just be pretty quick here. Let's see here. So I'll just whip together a really quick dashboard. So I've selected the image selector, and now what I can do is jump on my computer. I can drop a network diagram in there, preserve aspect ratio, make different sizes. And now I have sort of this freeform canvas as opposed to the very rigid XML dashboard that we were just modifying. From here, I can say, give me a column of, let's see here. So I'll call this successful web purchases. And what I'll do here is create an ad hoc search. Let me go back to our dashboard that we just created and get our 200. And typically when you're modifying or creating content, you can oftentimes reference other things that you've created to make it quicker to get to. So I grab my search, and I want this on a time chart over this here. So let's see. So it's found. chart last 7 days, just do all time. Let's see. Okay, so we could do something like this here. Maybe if we had better aspect ratios, throw something here. So they say pictures worth 1,000 words. The idea behind this new universal dashboard framework is you can start to add in any kind of visualization or table or data as it best represents the story that you're trying to tell with the data. So we're giving more flexibility to how you return and visualize and interact with data. So yeah, this is one example here. Another quick one, we could say pie chart. Do the same sort of SPL, but we'll just do a instead of purchase, we'll just say stats count by status. Maybe we want to know the different status codes. Got here. So yeah, if within your guys' environments, think of it like your dream dashboard in your car. Every little thing that you'd want to know that it could go wrong or lend itself to answering whatever question you might have of either your technical or business service. You can definitely get creative in how you tell that story. So this is much, and then for let's see, the dark mode folks, pretty cool, right? So yeah, for whatever. So I don't, sure. So yeah, very flexible. You can definitely drive all sorts of different value or visuals, and just be able to tell the story however you'd like to. So big improvement over standard XML. We're seeing a lot of early adoption. This is beta. We hope to have this baked into the product at some point soon. So if you guys are interested, you could definitely download it from the link I provided. If you're looking for any guidance, ask your account team, the Splunk side. If you have any questions, your account team should be able to help you. So let's see, that is the PDF at a high level. I know we're a few minutes over. I will wrap this up by jumping into one of my favorite apps that I've used for the last 7 or 8 years is dashboard examples. So I will quickly here just do dashboard examples so I can get you guys the link here. So this app is awesome when you're starting off with building dashboards and you want to see sort of art of the possible when it comes to what can I do with dashboards. So this is a Splunk dashboard with all the examples of elements that we can use as part of our dashboard. So we may want things like chart overlays. Show me a column chart, but I want you to overlay with a rolling average, so I know, if I'm in a good range or not. That may warrant some follow-up. Maybe I want to see a scatter chart or a bubble chart or map elements. Getting into table elements, maybe I want different ranges and different colors based on different values. So pretty much any use case that you would have around visualizing data and getting value out of it as it's most meaningful to you, you can find some sort of element within dashboard examples to help facilitate that. So highly recommend downloading it. And the great thing about this is that it's all driven from internal data. In addition, there's a few lookup tables that are provided as well. Things like IP addresses to show the maps and stuff. But yeah, if you drill into any of these dashboard examples, you get the element that you're looking for, and it gives you the source code of what this dashboard needs to be formatted from an XML perspective. This is the source code that's driving this visualization. So usually there's a few different examples. It's all driven, for the most part, off of internal data. So if you click the magnifying glass, index equal internal, this is just all the Splunk internal log information for those that don't know. This is all the Splunk specific log data that's driving all of these awesome visualizations. So yeah, highly recommend you guys check that out. I am over time, so I will circle back here to this. I'll send a copy of this out after, and I'll add in a few other notable items that we touched on. And so at this point, I will conclude the session and open it up to anybody that might have any questions. So yeah, thanks again for following along for those that did. If you are on your way out, have a safe and happy 4th of July. And we'll see you next time. But yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to either put them in the chat or come off mute if you feel comfortable doing that. Happy to stick around for however long you guys want to stick around for. So thanks again, everybody. And I will open the chat here and see if they're going on in the chat room.
Hey, John, it's Dave. Hey, thanks for presenting. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, my pleasure. That was fun.
Yeah.
To have to send another poll to the members and see what would make most sense for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Good idea.
Awesome.
I'm gonna stop the recording here.
Cool.
Stop that.